have a sort of story from my girlfriend. This is between 2011 and 2013. My girlfriend and I believe a total of 4 other people were hanging out after dark. Her family has this big-ass farmhouse type of place that sits more or less in the middle of the woods. It has a couple smaller cabins surrounding the property, pretty comfy. They're drinking and smoking weed and shit when someone, or something, throws either a large branch or a rock at them multiple times. What the fuck? They start shouting and telling whatever it is to fuck off, when suddenly, they hear running and movement in the trees and bush. If I'm remembering correctly, I think my girlfriend said they were outside the entire time, and at one point, they see or hear something running towards one of the smaller cabins in question. Her and one of the others man up and go investigate. Wet footprints enter the cabin, and then they just vanish. And nothing is in there. Stick and rock throwing turns into what she could only describe as bird calling. Whoever was fucking with them was more than one person, and they were signaling each other with a series of whistles. I believe she said one of the dudes there was able to see one running into the mountains and woods, and so they took off after him. This guy was a relatively fit crackhead type of guy, so he was fast, but he couldn't keep pace with, again, whatever or whoever this was. No clue what the fuck that was all about, and it never happened again. It could have just been some locals fucking around, but they were apparently incredibly fast and organized, and could enter one-room cabin and then just, poof, not be there anymore. There's also a part I'm leaving out where some green laser pointers were involved, but I forget where in the story it occurred. Girlfriend said at one point they were seeing lasers being pointed at them. I have several stories from her now that I mention it. Her family's property is, apparently, fucking weird. She gets home from work one night, just like any other night ever. Again, this house is pretty much in the middle of the woods, with a mountain right behind it, so wildlife is expected. One night, she's pulling in the driveway, and what she describes as a deer that is crawling on the ground like a spider scuttles in front of the car and up the mountain. She was absolutely certain it was your run-of-the-mill white-tailed buck, antlers and everything. Like this shit was unmistakably a deer, but its legs were all fucked up and they were bent like bugs, and it was crawling on them super quickly. Here's another occasion. Her and her boyfriend at the time were approaching our house from the car. It's about a 50-yard spooky walk in the dark, with woods surrounding you to do so, but they've done it many times. She says at one point, this enormous black mass creeps in front of the view as they're walking. She says it's absolutely hawking. She's bad at estimations, but I'm assuming bigger than your average man. She's 5'10", and she said it was just huge. It almost completely silently passes in front of them and goes into the woods. They somehow witness this in silence until after the fact, and then they both confirmed that both of them saw and heard the same thing. She said despite the size, it was still snapping twigs and such, so whatever it was in fact something physical. However, she said the size versus the amount of noise it was making and how quickly it was moving made no sense at all. We have our own place now, but her family is still around and live in the same spot. I almost want to camp out sometime and see what happens. Here's another one from her. I have more of these than I thought. Her and the same crew from my first post are fucking around at some old abandoned house for, well, no reason at all. Just hood rat shit. It's after dark, obviously. This place is out of the way, but not all by itself or anything. Pretty sure there were other houses within 100 yards or so. Anyway, they're all fucking around and creeping on various parts of the property. She's approaching the house from the front, about to turn the corner, and walk along the side of the house. Before she's able to turn the corner, they all hear an absolutely blood-curdling scream. Can't remember if she said it sounded to be an animal or human in origin. It was just a loud, goddamn awful scream. Naturally, they nope. She said it came from the side of the house that she was about to walk up on, and it was very clearly outside rather than inside, and it sounded like it came from about shoulder height. Everyone noped, so no one was able to identify. Folks have given her the screech owl explanation before, but she said it was shoulder heightish in origin, just based on how it sounded. I guess he could have been sitting in a window or something. Who knows? No one had eyes on that side of the house, so I don't know if there were windows or not. One more that's dumb, but hey, who knows? Fit crackhead guy from the first post is in a woods somewhere near her parents, house hunting. There's a creek that runs through said woods where he's at. This man swears that, at one point, he's minding his goddamn business when he hears a very loud industrial noise from the creek. He hits the dirt because, what the fuck? Says that some type of door in the creek bed opened up and some type of UFO hovered out and took off into the sky. It's probably bullshit, but interesting though. Not really a scary story, but I've always wanted to get this off of my chest. Be paperboy forever ago. Work a long route that throws paper to Air Force Base. This includes a 15-minute drive through back road cornfields. The area is now developed and has a proper road. I'm a patriot, so I won't name specific plane names, but the terrain of this place near water gives overcast a lot. The Air Force has a trick. They like to fly in strange-looking planes and drones on overcast nights. I'm probably one of the only civvy to notice these planes in this area. They never fly with lights, so it's hard to see. These planes are huge, highly modified from what you see on Wikipedia pages. They can fly very slowly, but I've seen them land half a dozen times. One day, about to start the cornfield drive of my route, see the huge modified plane fly across me about a mile ahead, very low and very slow. Reach about the halfway point in cornfield drive. Was listening to Coast to Coast AM at the time. It was good back then. Radio cuts out the static. All of a sudden, the cornfield road is illuminated, like it's daytime. I think something like, are the Air Force people fucking with me? I stop my car and I see the plane fly by above me. It's like 300 feet off the ground at most, and it is amazingly silent. It's shining some ultra light beam on the road. Wow, they were totally just fucking with me. They turn off the light. Radio turns back on. I watch the plane fly up into the overcast, and I get back on my route. This happened on the 22nd of last month. I don't know what happened, and my memory doesn't work anymore. Want to watch the moon landing? I take about 4 old Delta 9 sativa gummies. Watch Elon's SpaceX rocket launch as well. Weird shit starts to happen. Elon's rocket gets delayed, and the stream goes down. A new stream goes up, with an AI Elon starting talking about getting free with a Bitcoin scan code on the screen. My phone doesn't work. Trip starts to go bad. Leave my room and go into living room. All of a sudden, start talking to Elon Musk and a bunch of other people in my head. I see myself in a metal room while 2 beings, I guess, use a computer to comb through my head in order to find any dirt on me. They find nothing but my hentai games and tell me to delete it so I can join them. All of a sudden, my TV makes an electric noise from a channel that it was on. My head follows the sound, and they tell me that the aliens are coming and everything is going to be okay. I'm going crazy, aren't I? I'm not sure if this is worth a story or not, but I'm gonna say it is. Christmas Eve, come home drunk from the pub. Can't really remember getting home. Browse interwebs. Find a couple looking for friends on a kind of ad. Think like a whole Craigslist listing. They live about 50 miles away. Message them because I'm drunk and stupid. They message right back. We hit it off. Message back and forth for months. One day, they just stopped messaging me. Not sure why, because everything's been cool up until this point, even if we have kept it semi-anonymous. We planned to meet in the near future. We shared things about our lives, while remaining that semi-anonymous. So, I can't really understand it. It's now been a week or 2 since I heard from them, and I'm worried something might be up. Decide to drive to their house. Find it easy enough. Doors open. House, actually an upstairs flat, is nicely lit up and nice and clean. Bigger than it looks from the outside, too. Clearly hear, "Peter, give it back!" like in a jokey way. Take my shoes off and go upstairs to join them. What the fuck? Walk in the living room and ask them if I can play too. They look real sheepish, like they've been caught in a lie. Tell them I dropped by, i.e., I drove 50 miles out of my way, to see how they were because I hadn't heard from them. They're fine, they're just both under the weather. Peter compliments my coat. Thank him and tell him it's my school shooter coat, except it isn't leather, haha. Does not go down well. They seem friendly with me, but on edge, and my coat remark hasn't helped things. Not even sure why I'm wearing a coat like this. It's like an overcoat, because I would never usually wear one. Peter asks me how I got here. I drove. We all think this is hilarious for some reason. Clarifies. I mean, how did you know where we live? Now they look worried. Well, because memory goes completely blank. I just knew, as if I had been there before. Because Laura... Nope, still can't get it. They sort of just wave it off. We sit around a little while. Wait, they just sort of wave it off? What the fuck is this story? We sit around a while longer, but in a sort of triangle, like no one is going to sit next to one another. Get up and try to sit next to Laura. Stops me. Don't get too close. We're sick. I sit back down. Both start looking at me. You know, Anan, you don't look too good yourself. Hope I'm not catching the same shit they have. Do you feel groggy, though? Hold on. Wait, how do you guys know my name? Look at each other. We were going to ask you the same thing. At this point, become aware that, despite sharing a lot, we never gave out our names, and the things we did share about our lives were really vague. What did you do to your head, Anan? Touch head. Hurts. Blood on my hand. I can't remember. Hear children crying in another room. You should probably leave. Everything goes black. Open my eyes. 2 friends are trying to rouse me outside the pub. Some cunt dabbed me on the back of the head and I banged the side/front of my head on this little wall there. Assure them that I'm fine. Can't stop thinking about Laura and Peter because it felt so real. Months of life lived in less than 5 minutes. You know, those dreams where you're sure they happened? Not even that drunk and that knock to the head has sobered me up some more. Albeit, I probably do have a concussion. Friends walk me home anyway. Browse interwebs. Never do any kind of internet friends thing. Don't have any kind of social media even. But I am curious. See this ad listing, like the Craigslist kind. It's a couple, new to the semi-local area, looking for a friend. Send them a simple message. Is this Laura and Peter? Get a reply back. Is this Anan? Sorry we haven't been in touch. I lost my phone and my old messages. Obviously was not me who messaged them earlier, but someone with the same name. I just don't reply to it. Until recently, I worked third shift, from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. in a small factory, before I got moved to day. I won't get into what we make as it's not relevant, and it is a specific enough industry that someone involved in it might be able to identify the location, and identify me. But suffice to say, we make widgets, tens of thousands of them a day. The building is very old, at least from the 40s, if not older. The original company that built it got bought out by a multinational widget corporation that you've almost certainly heard of. This was about 20 years ago, and since then they've made a lot of renovations. But the main part of the factory is the original building with a coat of paint. As an operator, there is constant white noise, always around. Even with ear protection, the noise is so loud it can drown out your thoughts. Combine this with other machines, dust collection system, HVAC, fans, and awful 70s to 90s top 40 music, playing over the sound system, just to keep the non-operators entertained, and you just get a whooshing cacophony of background noise. I'm convinced that this kind of white noise for 8 to 12 hours every day can kind of make you start to lose it after a while. Interesting things can happen now and then that break up the monotony of a shift, like a stray cat wandering in through the shipping doors and running around the building and workers, probably having a near nervous breakdown on the floor. Honestly, those are more welcome than not, as it gets unbelievably boring. But sometimes you see or hear things that just make you go, what the hell? Be me, working overtime around 1 a.m. Work backed up because an operator at my machine on another shift has been ill for the last week, and we need to catch up. Only people in the entire building are myself and a supervisor. Maybe a security guy near the entrance, though I've never seen one. His little foreman's office is at the opposite end of the floor, and I can see him from my station through the window, sitting at his computer. At my machine, loud as hell like always. Clearly hear two male voices pass between me and the concrete wall behind me. Sounds like they're having a normal conversation while walking along the aisle behind. Can't make out anything they're saying, though it's nothing unusual about that. Hear them on the left, pass behind, and then on the right, like they are, again, casually walking past. I turn around and there's nobody, with a clear view from one wall of the building to the other, probably 100 feet end to end. Check, and supervisor is still sitting in his office. Later, he tells me that we should be the only people there. This kind of thing actually happens regularly, but I can usually rationalize it away because other people are around, and acoustics can make things sound closer than they are. The strangest by far, though, was this. Be me, working on December 31st. Literally everyone else on my shift, 7 people at its smallest, took a half day because they'll lose vacation time that won't roll over to January 1st. Even the supervisor left early, left the foreman in charge. Walking back from a smoke break onto an empty factory floor. Lame 90s alt-rock playing over the speakers because whoever made the music playlist is an 80s kid. The same songs play almost every day and sometimes multiple times a day. It's not really relevant to the story, but God, it drives me crazy. The floor is eerily quiet, so the music is kind of echoing in a lonely, Reddit liminal spaces kind of way. Walking from the door toward my machine when, suddenly, I hear loud footsteps. They don't even sound real to my ears, but like a pre-recorded sound effect. I wonder if it's something in the song that's playing. See something white moving in the corner of my eye. I turn and see what looks like 2 white disembodied shoes walking down the aisle to my right. Almost look like they're marching. The cadence of the step is so exaggerated. Too utterly confused and probably sleep-deprived to really react to it. Just watch blankly. The shoes walk behind one of the giant machines on the floor, and the footstep sounds fade away within 2 to 3 seconds. Stand there for probably a minute straight trying to process what the hell just happened. Walk around the machine to look, and, of course, there's nothing there. Spend the last hour and a half of my shift, paranoid as fuck. Punched out 15 minutes before I was supposed to because I couldn't take it anymore. This one's short. Be me, 23, walking around New Orleans, just getting lost in a new place. See a guy in a wheelchair across the street. Wonder how he got there. None of my business. Keep walking. I didn't even break stride. As I'm walking away, about 100 feet away, he starts howling. He's now stuck in the middle of the street trying to get help in crossing. Go help him. Ask why he howled. She just told me to. There was nobody else around. Just me and him on the block. Adventures on a rural farm. Family-owned acreage in rural Midwest. Farm was sold to my grandfather after a long chain of another family passing it down. They had a cemetery with generations of their kinfolk laying on the grounds. My grandfather literally tore up the headstones and relocated them for the farmhouse. Grandpa died before he could ever live there. Grandma would never go near the place. My folks took up residence to tend the farm. You know how some families are just sick or damaged in a way that's hard to pin down? That's what I grew up with. Father was always violent. Mom had an addictive personality. Everything was always in a state of disrepair. I think you could write this off, but I had some reoccurring paranormal experiences there. Be me, 8. Hear baby crying at the edge of the woods. Wander over, crying stops. Look down and see the headstone of a newborn. That's how I actually discovered the stones in the first place. Be me, 14. Playing with my first phone to have a camera. Take a selfie before selfies are a thing. I am 100% alone at home. Have to awkwardly take a picture because no front-facing camera. Flip phone around. See the blurred outline of a woman behind me in a white dress. My mom never wore a dress in her life. I showed the photo to several friends and asked them to describe what they see. They all asked who the lady in the white dress was. Lastly, the worst sleep paralysis demons I've had came in that house. A hag used to whisper in the doorway for me to look at her. She could take up my friends' and family's voices to try and trick me into it. She would crawl on top of me to make me stare into the black wet sockets where her eyes were. and would scream at me with putrid breath. The hag followed me for a bit, but when we left that house, she left. My parents also got their shit together too, almost instantly. The only person who doesn't have a thing in their life together is my sister, and, you guessed it, she lives on the old farm. The only person who doesn't have a thing in their life together is my sister. And my sister is, you guessed it, Frank Stallone.